This video is sponsored by Renderhub. Stick around to find out more about their high-quality 3D models and game-related assets. So, we all know that Nvidia has always been at the forefront of technology with generative and intelligent tools, as it has for a very long time been one of the central drivers of modern computer graphics, both in terms of hardware acceleration and foundational research. And it's quite interesting to see what they've created now. In fact, before the explosion of neural networks for generative noise to images, Nvidia has always been there with websites like thispersondoesnotexist.com down to Gaussians that uses segmented technology to generate astonishing images. And before the acceptance of Gaussian splatting, Nvidia did tease out the neural radiance field, which has now popularly been adopted into films and other forms of creative art. And in the literal sense of it, Nvidia has always been ahead and a huge contributor to various emerging technology in both computer graphics and various sectors. And today we have some interesting tools that folks at Nvidia Spatial Intelligent Lab have put together, and this is for creating kinetic motions which can be used in various fields. Introducing Kimodo. So, what is Kimodo? Nvidia Kimodo is a kinetic motion diffusion model which is trained on large-scale optical motion data. This is controlled through text and constraints to generate high-quality 3D human and robot motions. Similar to various tools that we've already talked about in the past that simply uses clear prompt inputs to make animations, and of course some of the other ones that we also talked about that simply uses both prompt alongside video footages to make animations, this goes a little bit above that. By the way, for those who like to see those previous ones that we've talked about within this category, then links to this will be in the description alongside some cards on this video that would help you explore all of those. And so, what exactly is the premise for this? The premise for this is pretty simple. High-quality motion data is becoming increasingly important for applications in both robotics, simulation, and entertainment, and having a tool that users can expressively work with and also control the kinetic motion will offer creators a chance of focusing more on the creation rather than technicalities of the process of making those motions in the first place. And that is where this tool actually comes in. And for some reason you might be thinking this is exactly the same thing with your typical text to motion. This, however, takes inputs, generates motions, and still offer a kinetic constraint control on poses, which makes it a lot more interactive. So you can actually alter a bit of how you want the motion to be like by using either posing or the kinetic constraint control that this offers. And from the paper, Kimodo is set to generate high quality motions while being easily controlled through text and a comprehensive suite of kinematic constraints including full body keyframes, sparse joint position and rotation, 2D waypoints, and dense 2D paths. And this simply means that the model can be conditioned based on what you want as the creator. So we can go from sparse keyframes to in-betweens and environment interactions easily. This also poses to offer end effector constraints, which is a combination of both hand and feet position and rotation locking, which can be pretty useful in various animations or humanoid motions. Additionally, it also offers proper root constraints as the global translation of the character can be controlled through the 2D waypoint and dense path. And having these 2D waypoints makes it very easy for you to literally control stuff and position things where you like them to be, and it creates sort of a playground for you to be able to control your motions effectively. And interestingly, motions can be exported to formats which are compatible with both ProMotions and Mojoko, and this can be used for training physics-based policies alongside robotics as well. Now, the Kimodo model family includes models which have been trained on different skeletons and dataset, and is basically part of a large research effort at Nvidia to support both humanoid robotics and physical AI by developing models and tools for both 3D humanoid motions. And of course, for those who like to read up on this, you can simply go ahead and check this one out. I'm going to put links to this one in the description where you'll be able to see some of the amazing examples that they've put together. The folks at Nvidia are not playing with this one, as they've actually put a lot of work in making this thing look as super useful as possible. So from here, you can actually take a look at some of these examples. Like we've got the text to motion generation. This is for locomotion. We've got this one which is compositional locomotion as well. So you can actually mix the prompt a bit more. Object interaction is also something that is pretty nice. It's part of the examples you can find here. We've got the typical dancing. We've got some stunt right here, some gestures. And you can also see a couple of other ones, which includes like the stylized motion, which is more like a zombie movement. We've got the disperse, samples, and sequence of prompts, which means that you can actually add various prompts, mix things up together, and the motion will fall according to plan as the character gets driven by that. Of course, we'll also have the full body constraint, which has to do with the sparse keyframe, the in-between, and the environment interaction. So lots of things are right here for those who like to explore these ones, and you can actually go over to their GitHub where you can read more about it. And how this works is pretty easy. So by default, you do have about 5 minutes to test this demo out, and we do have that 5 minutes now, which we're going to use to test out this demo. So once you click on Start Demo, this would offer you a UI where you can actually start doing stuff. Of course, this UI is all white. You can change this to black if you want. I mean, if this makes you feel comfortable. And how this one works is pretty easy. Right here is where you have your clips. So you can increase, reduce the clips however you want. Say, for example, we would like to make this about, say, 100. We can select the model that we would like to work with. By the way, you do have your generate, your visualize, and your instructions here. So if we go over to generate, we can select the model type that we like. You can load in model types if you want. Right here is where you have examples. You can load examples if you choose to. And from here, you can actually generate. You do have your model parameters right here. And you also have your post-processing right here. So if we click on generate, this is going to take a couple of seconds and then generate the motion for us. If we press the space bar, this would automatically start playing back. So in this case, once we press the space bar, we can stop it. If we click right here, we can also enter another prompt. So in this case, I could say maybe a passing jumping, maybe. So we can do that. So jumping, just simply going to dial that in. And we're also going to go ahead and have this selected. Again, just like you have with your typical clips, you can increase, reduce, do all of that stuff. So once you have that, we can have this selected, and I can click on generate one more time. So if you work with, motion mixing tools for animation, maybe you're into motion capture cleanups and, motion capture stuff, you definitely understand how this one works. Again, if you work with animation clips, you'd also understand how this one works. So once we press the playback, this is going to proceed to playback. And from here, we can see that our character, once it gets here, it performs that jump. So some other things that you can do is you can have this selected, and you can go over to the constraints and you can do some constraint stuff. Actually, if we come over here, let's say at a point like this, we may want to enter the editing mode and edit certain parts. We can do that. So once we enter the editing mode, we can go over and we can start doing the editing. Let's actually move this over to this point. So we can actually start making those edits right there. So we talked about some of the things that you can do with this, which includes like your whole root motions and stuff like that. You can do all of that. At the same time, if you like to play with your 2D points, maybe the points which you get to work with, you can also play with them. You can make your smooth path by going ahead to turn this on. If you're thinking about exporting the motion, you need to go down here, and you do have two types of motion export types which you can work with, which includes the MPZ and the BVH. So BVH is really good for those who are into motion builder. So if you work with motion builder, or maybe you work with character creator from Revolution, I believe you can actually work with BVH files, I think. And because these are hierarchical files that you can use to retarget bones to various parts of your character, then of course you can work with that. So you do have this as well. Another thing that we can do is we can click and we can go over here. So let's simply go out. So I'm just simply going to exit this mode, because you need to exit the editing mode for you to be able to do any more generation. So I'm just simply going to go ahead and exit that. Let's close this. And I might say a passing climbing, maybe. So let's say climbing. Press the enter key, and we would like to generate something about, say, this one. Okay, and so this just simply times out. So this gives you like 5 minutes to do stuff. I believe we also have another page that was open, so I'm simply going to load that page in. All right, so we have this other page that we opened beforehand, so you can open multiple pages just to be able to explore with this a little bit more. So just in case you like to try a lot more, you can open up multiple pages and explore it. Now you would notice that during the first run, this takes some time. I think it sort of loads, but after the first run, it just plays back easily. So if I move this all the way back, press the space bar, you would notice that we do have the person walking, gets to this point, it does the jump, and then it gets to this other point and begins the climb. So if you would like to export this, of course, like we mentioned earlier, and then we can get a BVH reader, which we will use to play this animation back. How you delete stuff with this is by simply right-clicking. So once you right-click, you get to delete. that particular clip. And if you like to make some adjustments on certain parts, of course, you can actually come through and make some modifications. Maybe for left hand, you like to do stuff, go over to that particular frame, click, and then you can make changes. So it is pretty interesting how this one works. So for those who like to try this, right now it's a bit draggy, but it works, and that is what matters. Hopefully, this might be the future of creating humanoid motions for characters, except for the fact that currently you have 5 minutes of session demo. But if this eventually makes it out to a full product, I believe a lot of people would use this for both games and animation. And if you work with Blender and you like to explore some of these BVH files, you might want to explore that with the AutoRig Pro or RigMap, because these are very cool animation tools that you can use to explore your BVH files and also retarget these to your 3D models. However, if you just want to review them, or maybe you like to see these on a different BVH viewer, which you can have access to on the internet, then the BVH viewer is a nice one. Actually, I'm going to link the GitHub for those who like to explore it, possibly like to run this on your computer. Then you can come through and see this for yourself. However, if you like to run this on the internet, then there is a BVH viewer that you can have access to right here on the web. So with the BVH viewer open, we can simply drag the out BVH file and drop it, and automatically that starts playing. To navigate across this is by simply holding down Control, and you can simply go around it and preview it. So this is basically how you can view this on the web if you like to view the whole motion. So instead of maybe waiting for that playback time that takes time, you can actually just get your stuff ready, test it out, and then export it. So in this case, you will be able to see what you're up against. There are certain things that you can do with this one, which is pretty decent. So maybe, for example, you like to draw the wireframes, or you like to draw, the transforms. You can see that I want to take off the skeleton. You might want to keep that if you want. Maybe draw or remove the capsules. That is also really good. You'd also notice that the root stays right there. You can play this back, have fun working with it. Again, this is just a viewer, just in case you like to view those stuff before you commit to using them. And like we mentioned earlier, this is also going to be super useful for games. And speaking about games, you might want to consider checking out Renderhub, as Renderhub has a ton of nice, cool animations that you will love to work with for games. So there's just a ton of animation types and different quality of animations that you would find here. So if you're looking for very realistic animations, or even free ones like this, you would also see them right here. And speaking about free stuff that you can get right here on Renderhub, there are nice free 3D models as well, which are also available. And for those that are into games, maybe you're into Unreal Engine, you'd also find some nice free 3D models as well, and assets that you can use for your games. So there is just a ton of nice game stuff that you find for both Unreal Engine and also Unity. So from animations to 3D models, all the way to assets that you can work with, Renderhub does have a ton of cool things that you can start working with. And of course, if you like to be inspired by cool stuff, then the art gallery is an amazing place where you can find a lot of inspiration. So whether you're looking for game-ready inspiration or you're looking for artwork-related inspirational stuff, you will definitely find a ton of them right here. And of course, if you're looking for game-ready assets, or possibly you're just looking for 2D assets, or you're looking for nice 3D models that you can use for your next animations, then Renderhub has a ton of things in stock for you. So this is it for those who like to take a look at all of these, or maybe you like to try Kimodo, then links to all of this is going to be in the description, so do well to check them out. Tell me what you guys think about this one in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.